Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Capitalizing on the Growing Fix and Flip Market. Now, as questions come up during the webinar, please go ahead and use the little questions function and ask your questions, and I will ask them. So we want this to be as engaging and as possible, so please don't be shy. We want to hear from you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to today's speakers. Take it away, Jim.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rose. Greetings from rainy San Diego, California. I'm Jim. This is Miss Lori Williams. I'm going to do the first few slides, then I'll be quiet, get out of you guys' hair, and let Lori speak. So a little bit about us first. We're on the map. We're doing loans in most states. New York's a problem with the boroughs. Everywhere else, we're looking to do fix and flip loans to fix up homes in America. As you can tell, we've been around 10 years, 9 or 10 years. We securitize our loans, which means we sell them. Our loans come from mortgage brokers. We're a wholesale platform. You are our customer. We love you guys. Highly experienced management team doesn't mean we're old. It just means we're experienced. Next slide. The hot fix and flip market's been hot now for 3, 4, 5 years. And I always get the question, why is that? Why hasn't this cooled off? What's going on? I always answer it with the return on investment for investors doing these loans is off the chart. In fact, a few months ago, we took a little study on our last 35 fix and flip loans that have paid us off. They were successful, all of them, and every one made money. In fact, the average return on investment was just north of 20%. So where else can you invest your money today and see yourself earning a 20% return? That's why it's hot, and the inventory of aged homes in America is millions of homes that are 50, 60, 70 years old. So big market, investors know it, and they're out looking for them in droves. Next slide. Here's an example of a customer that we typically get. It's a contractor that turns investor. They do the work, they do the labor on these properties, and they get paid, they're 15, 20% of the total job. But as they look into the deal, the investor himself is making a lot more money than they are. On a $100,000 job, they might make 10,000 bucks for themselves. But the investor makes a lot more. I'll show you the next slide. This is a loan that we actually closed. This builder contractor was in Seattle. This closed last October. They've been remodeled, 44 remodels in 5 years. Finally, they figured out, well, we're going to do this one ourselves with our own money. So if you look at that budget on this house, that was the property, $350,000 to fix it. They would make 15 or 20% their fee for doing this, their income. So 15%, they'd make $52,000. But look at the number or the dollars invested. It was $1,150,000 in. That would be purchase price plus repairs. They listed this property for $1.5. So the spread between what they got in that $1.1 million versus a resale of $1,450. That's like $300,000. So we would say, do you want to be the contractor or you want to be the investor? In this case, they're both. So look at the profit on that piece of property. A real win for them. Next slide. What do we have next? The strategic investor.
Rose, if you said something, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I was saying that Jason wants to know what percentage of our business comes from these builders/contractors?
Builder contractor, probably, Lori, 20%?
Mm-hmm. That's probably accurate.
20% in that vicinity. There's another type of investor out there called the strategic one, and we closed a loan here. I'll give you a prime example of how some people manage projects to maximize their potential profit. So this next deal is a well thought out strategy. We'll take a look at it. It's a large property in Alpharetta, Georgia, as soon as Rose goes there. It's something like 8,000 square feet, I remember. And this particular investor bought it for 875,000. It's now listed for 1.6. So you can imagine the potential profit in there. It's not sold yet. It's on the market for 1.6. We used a 1.4 after repair value, the 1.4 million. But I want to talk to you about the strategic, how they manage this process, this project. This loan closed on 11/1. So that's that, what, 4 or 5 months ago, Lori?
Mhm.
It's on the market and listed on January 25th. That would be 86 days. So they put their money in, they went to work, they repaired the interior of this house, which was destroyed due to a divorce situation. It was a mess. They started taking draws to do the repairs on November the 30th, 66,000. 18 days later, another $57,000. They're working. And the last draw on January 9th, $45,000. That takes a lot of management, overseeing the project, talking to your contractors every day to get this home back on the market. That's a perfect example of someone that knows what they're doing and they got their stuff together. Okay, Lori's going to talk now. I'm done for a minute.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. This particular scenario has to do with when we see these coming into our scenario portal. And we do see many where, for example, 2 or 3 people have partnered up. It could be a contractor with a realtor who finds the property, or an experienced investor with a new investor. And so they are leveraging the expertise of others to get these deals done. So how this would come to play is that perhaps a first-time investor, which we're fine doing, partners up with a realtor or a contractor or both to create the LLC, and allows us to move forward. And the new investor is garnering experience to then be able to do other projects on their own or in partnership with who they chose. So we see many of these with multiple experience levels coming in on the scenario portal.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
So
Right.
Lisa asked, so the loan closes in the name of the LLC?
That is correct. These are considered entity loans. We are lending to the entity. So whoever is on that LLC or S corporation signs our loan, becomes a personal guarantor, and the loan documents, the appraisal, the insurance, the title are all in the name of the LLC. Good news for everyone, we don't have a requirement for how long the LLC has to be open. So if they don't have one, they go online, it's about an hour, a couple $100, and they create the LLC and we forge on ahead. Great question. Thank you.
Thanks. And Nick, yes, this is being recorded, and look for an email from me, Rose Waldy, about an hour or so after the webinar, and you'll see a link to the recording, and you'll also see the slide deck. So I will give you a PDF of the slide deck, as well as some other great surprises that I'll talk to you about in a little bit.
Yay, Rose. The serial flipper. So this is a full-time, fully engaged investor that does properties every day of his life. If you think about an investor doing this business and has no other job, when they complete a home and put on the market, they've fired themselves, they're out of work, unless they have found another property. So investors are always looking for the next project down the street, around town, because once this property sells, their income stream goes to zero. So they're repeat business. They find 2, 4, some do 6, some do 8, 10 deals a year. The beauty of that is they come back for a loan through you. So commissions can be not just one loan, it could be 4 or 5 loans because they're coming back through you. So a very good borrower to go find. And Lori's going to talk about how can you find these people in your community. We'll go over that and give you some ideas later.
Hey, Jim, Gregory wants to know, do you use the names in the LLC for experience, or when they create the LLC, does the experience, in quotes, start over?
If they've used, we measure experience by, did they buy a property with their capital, their money? Was the house in their name or an LLC that they're in charge of?
Either one is
Either
acceptable.
one works, and that counts as experience. What doesn't count is, I put no money in, it was not in my name. I worked on the house and painted the bathroom. That does not count as experience. Next slide, Rose. So real quick on this serial flipper, here's one. This gentleman's now on his 4th loan request with us. This was a deal in New Orleans. We got paid off on this last week. Purchase price, in fact, was $330. List price was $740. It ultimately sold for $730. So that's a $400,000 spread. You think that guy did okay? I would like his return on investment. One note, it did take him 14 months due to historical society delays. So our notes are 1 year. If you get into that situation where you're not complete, this house was not done at 12 months. However, it was close to being done. We extended, we worked out some terms, and we extended it for 3 months. So don't panic if you're 80% done and you're not ready to list the property.
So Jim,
Okay, next, go ahead.
Katie wants to know, so you don't have to be on the title for it to be considered experience as long as you can prove you provided the capital?
No, it would have to have been one in which we have what we call a fix and flip experience form. And we send that to you when we send you the term sheet or the pre-qual. And that's where the borrower investor lists the properties. And we do check public records to show that they were either in the name of that investor, or if it's in the name of an LLC, we would look it up to make sure that our borrower was part of that LLC. So yes, your capital, but also in title.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later. One note, we do make loans to first-time investors where they would have no experience. So hold on, we will get there. Okay, next slide, I think is Lori's turn.
It is. So where do we believe that, we get these from, and, where you can search for these deals? When I speak to people, I speak to, this is a great potential for business to pretty much replace the non-existence refi cash out business that we may have done in the past. And it's still out there, but obviously not to that degree. So I do talk to many loan officers who have great realtor connections, and those realtors are referring these to you. Or you belong to an investment club and you go to their group meetings, conferences. Jim and I have attended, as well as Rose, conferences where we speak to these people face to face, that also attend them. And it's another good place to meet the people that can refer these types of loans to you. There's online forums that Rose will speak about next. Any kind of networking with real estate events, auctions having to do. It's okay if the property's in foreclosure, and we do get leads from loan officers who have realtors who are giving them leads on properties that are going to be foreclosed on or not quite listed yet. So the experienced flipper has these same types of relationships, but you also can develop them to find these types of borrowers that are interested in doing the fix and sell or fix and hold business.
And remember, those investors are repeat borrowers for you. That first bullet point, real estate investment clubs, SDIC, San Diego Investment Club, meets on the second Tuesday of every month. Today's Tuesday, the 12th, it's the second Tuesday. They're meeting at 5 o'clock this evening. There'll be 140 people. Most of them, people that go to that event, are investors. You can walk into those events in your town for free. They'll actually become a member, but you can attend and start meeting investors. Great idea, Lori, thanks.
Speaking of contractors and investors, Syed has a really good question. He says, so he's got let's say he's got a borrower who doesn't have history on the title, but he's an experienced general contractor who's been doing renovations for years for his clients. How do we count that as experience for flipping?
Two answers.
Right. So as far as reducing his down payment, we don't technically count that as experience. That investor, again, he hasn't invested his own capital, but he may come to us maybe wanting to do his own work, which for a first timer is an exception, but one that we do get approved from time to time. We just may ask to see a couple of addresses of properties that he has worked on so we can see that, but we would count that as no experience because he wasn't on title and didn't invest his own money.
However, he could get a loan up to what LTC, Lori?
75%. So the first timer we do 25% cash down, 75% of the purchase price, plus 75% of the construction or rehab budget. That is acceptable to us.
All right, great. So House Flipper, this is an actual screenshot of a search that I did for like house flipping forums. This is Facebook. And what you do is you just put in either property investor or house flipping, and then click on, when you get the search results, click on groups. There's people, there's groups, etc. Click on groups and look at the number of different groups. These are people who are actively talking about their flipping deals, asking questions, looking for advice. So I strongly encourage you to go in there and be the subject matter expert on financing. Say, hey, no, I can help you out with the financing on this. We've done loans like this before, and get your reputation in on these groups.
So I'm just going to go over some high-level details on our program. As we've stated several times, we do accept any level of investor experience. We use a scenario portal versus a IRLA 1003. So normally what happens, except for this hour when I'm here, when the scenario goes in and you get the message that says, thanks for your scenario, our portal is dynamic, so I see it immediately. I jump in there right away and pretty much will call you or message you right away to let you know that I have it, I see it, and ask questions if necessary about the deal that you've submitted. The product is designed for those investors who are buying distressed homes, repairing them for sale, or repairing them and coming back to you to refinance it to get our balloon paid off, and they're going to retain it as a rental. So either exit strategy is completely acceptable to us. This is LendSure. We absolutely make exceptions. Jim and I are not afraid to go 3 doors down and talk to the president of the company and ask for an exception if it makes sense to us. We'll have conversations with you about that. Good news, 12-month interest-only balloon, no prepayment penalty, no EPO, no IRLA, no income analysis, no DTI, no TRID.
No IRLA?
No IRLA.
Damien, I hope that answers your question about whether a fix and flip can be turned into a rental afterwards. So I hope that addresses that.
And if they tell us up front that their intention is to turn it into a rental, we've had several where that was their exit strategy, and their contractors were working away, and someone drove by and loved what they saw and said, I want to buy this, and offered the borrower more than they thought they were going to be able to list and sell it for. So yes, we asked for the exit strategy up front, but if that changes midstream, that's completely acceptable to us. It's not anything that can't change.
I like that acronym BRRR, B-R-R-R, right, Lori?
Yes.
Buy, repair, refinance, and repeat. The repeat means more compensation into your pocket as well as ours.
Guys, Hans says, no IRLA? Just enter it into your system? What?
True that.
Yes, and just so you know, I actually probably 5 minutes before this call had a conversation with someone and said, I'm just going to send my link to my borrower. I strongly recommend that you do not send the link to the borrower. They never do it correctly. They never enter your LO information correctly. And sometimes they enter it and it takes me 4 hours a day to figure out, you know, who the LO is. I'll call the borrower and I'm like, how did you find this? Or, you know, have you been talking to a loan officer? And then I'll enter your information in. So just my recommendation that either you or your sales assistant input the 20 pieces of information that we ask for on the portal so that I know exactly who the loan officer is to make sure that you get your proper compensation.
Okay. Sorry, Han said, weird, you sounded just like me.
Thank you, Hans.
So a few guidelines for you. Credit scores as low as 660. Make a note, please. Anyone in the LLC has to have the 660 FICO. The higher, the better. I've seen minor exceptions to maybe 655, but if you send us one, we're going to ask to see the credit because that could be an exception. So important to note. Also, even though these are considered business commercial loans, our product is really for residential properties, non-owner, single family, condos, 2 to 4 unit, multifamily, no primary, no second homes, nothing commercial, nothing mixed use, no acreage. If you have a particular property, this is the only exception to not putting it into the portal right away. If you're concerned about the property, call me or email me with the property address and let me look it up, and I'll tell you in a heartbeat, we can't do it, or we like this property, go ahead and put it into the portal. So the purchase loan amount of up to 85% of the purchase price, that is for your experienced investor. That investor is defined as has done 3 or more fix and sell or fix and hold in the last 24 months. That's how I get 85. If they haven't done it before, no problem, 75%. And if they've closed 1 or 2, I can normally get that one to 80% or 20% down. So it's just a matter of what their down payment is going to be. So loan to cost is different, right, than loan to value, which is why LendSure has fix and flip in a different unit. This is all I do. I don't touch the other loans. I only do the fix and flip. So the loan to cost is our loan amount divided by what the cost is, or I kind of call it acquisition, the purchase price plus the rehab cost.
Okay.
Kind of difficult to explain and understand until you have a real deal. Rose, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to say to Becky, Orlando, and I think a couple of other people, yes, I will be providing you with private label resources, flyers that you can customize with your logo and everything. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you how to get those, and I'm also going to send you a link. Look for the thank you email from me, and that's going to contain the link. Do you guys need to be licensed as a mortgage originator in the state that the property is located in?
Yes. Yes, you do need to be.
Sure,
So the licensing is the same. Now, check your states for licensing on non-owner properties because it might be a little bit different. But if any licensing requirements, you are still required to have those licenses. Good question.
And MLS.
Yes. Yeah.
So for the property types, can we do condos? I'm not sure if Steve means non-warrantable condos as well as condos.
We'll get to that.
Yes. Yeah, we can look at those. Absolutely. I believe the minimum square footage on condos is 500 square feet.
Does new construction count as a fix and flip?
Go ahead, Rose. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Katie wants to know if new construction counts as a fix and flip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's sold.
If it's an investment, if they built a spec home and they sold it, yes.
Counts double.
Okay.
Lori mentioned something about acres. Acreage, we're good up to 10 acres. So don't panic. We can get up to 10, but those large farms, 100 acres, that's not what we do.
As long as we can find comps that are also 10 acres. So again, if you have acreage, probably a good idea to pick up the phone and call me just for we can look at the property and make a quick decision on that. Rose, any other questions before we keep going?
Well, can you submit a pre-approval without a property, like a TBD loan?
Good question. No, and I'll tell you why. This program is property centric. I have no IRLA. I don't have income. It's not like sending 24 months of bank statements and approving me for a $600,000 loan, and now I go shopping. You do not need to be under contract to submit it into the scenario portal, but there must be a property. So the scenario portal is asking for address, purchase price, construction cost, and ARV after rehab value. So I cannot do TBDs because they're so property centric. We've got to be able to look at the property, see what the value is, what are they going to do to it, and what is it going to be worth after. Having said that, when it comes into the portal, let's say that they're looking at 123 Oak Street and it's not under contract. And that day I send you the term sheet or pre-qual and they make the offer and they don't get that property. You don't need to start all over when they do find a property. You just call or email me and say, Lori, new address, new purchase price, new construction costs, new ARV, go to work on it. And those are very fast to be able to then send you an updated term sheet with the property address. So the term sheet pre-qual you get is for that borrower and that property. It's not transferable. So it's important to just give us a call and let us know about that. So unfortunately, no TBD properties, but not under contract. Our term sheet is very detailed. It tells you what percentage of the purchase price we can do, what percentage of the construction costs, what our total loan is, what the rate is, what documents are required for next steps, and what the costs are. So it's a 2 to 3 page pretty detailed document that is sent to you. Then I go over it with you before you go over it with your borrower to make sure that you're understanding what you're going to sell to them. So Jim's holding.
But you're holding us there, Jim.
Yeah.
That's a term sheet.
Right. So the term sheet comes to us signed by the borrower along with a purchase contract, a scope of work, and your tri-merge credit with credit scores. And that's all I need to get the appraisal ordered. Simultaneously, you're sending me another 5 or 6 documents, assets, driver's license, LLC documents to enable me to get the file into underwriting. That's when you'll meet Michaela Smith, our account manager processor, who will then follow this process to get the loan approved, get the rest of the documents, and get you a clear to close and sign it and get it ready for funding. So I'm still involved in the process along the way. You can always call me, but that's the transition from me, the account executive, to Michaela, our account manager and processor.
One ad on the loan guideline, loan process. Lori mentioned it well. We must have an address. To the address also is the relevance of the location. You've all heard the saying from realtors and bankers, location, location, location is the most important thing in real estate. You can underline that how many times in fix and flip?
100.
It's very important where the property sits. Fix and flip properties in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan or Northern Montana on 10 acres of raw land, they're not going to fly. So location is important. We only underwrite the project, location, credit, and assets. That's it.
We're looking for Johnny Lunch Bucket properties that can easily be sold or easily rented. And that's the beauty of this program, is that, you know, it is about those properties and their location. We pull them up And we drive the street quite often in Zillow down the street. And the other thing that I think is important, and I'm not sure it's mentioned somewhere else, is that before you get a term sheet, we have looked for and identified 2 or 3 comparables to support the ARV, the beauty of the internet, that we can look these things up. Some of you may have already submitted deals, and if we are unable to find comps to support your ARV, we're going to get on the phone and talk to you about that. Maybe ask you to go to your realtor to find, provide us addresses of comps. We don't get a lot of review challenges on these files because we've done our due diligence. And we just had one last week where the appraiser, what did Jim tell me? They brought it in as the lowest common denominator. We provided them some more comps that we had already looked for. They brought it in at value, and we're getting a clear to close on that loan today. So most of them come in with a value, an ARV value that is completely acceptable. On the ones that aren't, we do a rebuttal. It's about 24 hours or less to get those rebuttals back, and we're successful over 90% of the time on the rebuttal. The last thing we want to do is cut the loan back. Sometimes we have to do that, but it happens very infrequently because of the work that we do up front to get comps before we issue the term sheet.
Lori, I'm getting several questions about turn times. What's your how fast can you close? What's your turn time to close? How fast do you get back to us when we submit a scenario?
I would tell you that I believe it's very fast. As far as from scenario to term sheet, about 1 day, sometimes 2 days. That's a fast process. I ask that the purchase contracts are written with a 30-day close of escrow, and then I run fast to get those closed in 22 to 25 business days, obviously contingent on how quickly the borrower pays for the appraisal so we can get it scheduled and sends us the documentation that's on the term sheet in one grouping so that we can get it closed very quickly. But imagine this, we're getting 3 or 4 documents to order the appraisal, and the appraisal gets ordered. Simultaneously, you're sending me the additional documents that I need to get it into underwriting. So the appraisal's being done at the same time the file is being underwritten, and those merge. There's a few conditions left. We get the conditions, we get the clear to close, and we go to funding. So I do my very best to communicate often. I don't sleep a lot. I pretty much am, even though I'm in San Diego, I'm normally up close to 3 or 4 almost every single morning. Some of you may have already gotten emails from me early in the morning, and I work late at night. I am driven to provide you the best service I possibly can.
That's a full day.
Whether you email me or call me, I'm on the phone a lot. So if you call and you get my voicemail, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. It means I'm on another call. Even if you don't leave me a voicemail, I'll see the missed call, and every hour or so, I go through my missed calls. I clear out my email every single day. So I try to provide you the same superior customer service that you're used to getting from your other account executive at LendSure.
Let's go to draw process, Rose. Moving on.
The draw process. Important to note, and this is on the term sheet, no portion on a purchase, no portion of the construction or rehab costs are dispersed at close of escrow, $0. So how it works is the purchase closes like a regular purchase. The borrower comes to the closing table with down payment and closing costs, and they own the property. Tomorrow they go in and their contractor starts what I'll call the demolition. They tear out the kitchen and the bathrooms. The borrower pays that money to the contractor. They send us receipts. We order or paid invoices. We order an inspection, which happens very quickly as long as the inspector has access. And once that inspection is completed, the funds are then wired back to the borrower. And an important note down at the bottom, client will be reimbursed a % of the completed work based on the original loan cost ratio. What does that mean? If it's a first timer and we approve them at 75% of the rehab costs and they spend $10,000 on the demolition, they will receive $7,500. So although the borrower does not need all of the funds for the rehab, they need the portion to start the construction, the rehab, and as they go through that process and ask for draws, we'll reimburse them at that same percentage. There is a draw inspection fee of anywhere between $175 and $225. So a borrower is not going to want to, order a draw for $500. That doesn't make sense. And another question about the draw process that I get often is, how many draws can they take? Again, there is an inspection fee, and the only time we really dictate a draw schedule is when it's a major project. If someone's going to buy a property, tear it down to the foundation and rebuild it, we will probably want to have a conversation with the borrower and the contractor to come up with a draw schedule based on the scope of work, but that's the only time we do that. And another important note, we will never call your borrower unless we have your permission. It's a question on the scenario portal. We do speak to 100% of the borrowers before closing because we're going to have a relationship with them after closing. They're coming to us for funds, but I will always ask you, I've got to call the borrower, I've got to call the contractor. Is that okay? And do you want to be on the phone and schedule it from there? So important to understand the draw process, that no portion of those funds are dispersed at close of escrow.
Why not, Lori? They might take the money and run.
So I've got a couple of different questions about if that's the case, then how do you deal with investors who purchase homes at auction?
Same process.
Yeah, it's the same process as far as, I'm assuming what that means is they've paid cash for it and it's a delayed purchase or a refi. Is that what we're speaking to? Because in that case, if that's the case, if we do several where the investor doesn't want to wait for us, right? They're at an auction or they know there's going to be multiple bids and they don't want to wait for the financing. So they go and they buy the house cash for $180,000. We love those borrowers because then they will get cash out, right? A purchase is cash in, down payment and closing costs. If it's a refi, they've owned it for a while and now are wanting to rehab it to sell it or rehab it to rent it, or they paid cash for it, then we will absolutely provide them cash out. And then in that case, they're getting a portion of their investment back and then another portion that would be a holdback for the draws. Different scenario link for a refi than a purchase, and both are on our website. Good question.
Thanks. And Jerry says he does a monthly happy hour from 4 to 6 and wants to know if we would be able to do a little presentation. Absolutely, Jerry. I will be happy to do that. Contact me directly after the webinar and we will work that out for you.
That's a win.
Tell us about this one, JV.
Okay, I'll talk to this. So now we're going to brag a little bit. So we have competition out there that does the same thing we do. 3 things that stand out in the LendSure program. The first one I'll mention is, this is a real deal. This is in San Antonio, Texas. It's called a mid-construction stall. Someone framed this house and they got to this point and put a roof on it July of last year. Now it's March of this year and it still looks the same. So that investor that bought that and did this said, hey, I'm out of money, I'm done. I'm just gonna list it and sell it as is. So he does that. A new investor comes along to finish the project. They want $250,000 to complete this house. That's a tough loan approval for a lot of lenders. Mid-construction stalls are kind of frowned on at times. We'll entertain them. We look at these deals. It's a real niche for LendSure. If you run into that situation, call Lori, call me, because we underwrite these loans. Lori mentioned aggressive look at first-time investors. Some folks won't do a first-time investor at all. She mentioned we'll go up to 75%. So I would say we're as strong and aggressive on that first-time investor as anyone in the industry. The last thing I'll brag about is heavy construction projects considered. Go to that next slide or two down, Rose. Heavy construction simply means I'm going to do a lot of work to this house. And heavy construction past $200,000, those same lenders, they like to frown on those, they shy away from them. Here's a property that's in Park City, closed a month ago, right, Lori?
Mm-hmm.
$3 million loan, $1.5 million of that loan, $1.5 million was a payoff. We paid off a current lender, and $1.5 million left over to fix and repair the house. That loan was a month in the approval. Took us a month to get it approved and 2 more weeks to close it. Extremely difficult deal, but at the end, a makes sense deal. So LendSure ends up with a $3 million loan, and the ARV on this from 2 appraisers came in at $6 million.
Wow.
So $6 million ARV in Park City. That heavy construction, anything over $250,000, call Lori Williams, call me.
And this is one where Jim did get very,
Detailed?
well, you got detailed, but you spoke to the contractor on multiple occasions to understand the project. Because of his great experience, we were able to get this approved with their great write-up of what they're going to do when.
Okay. Goes back to common sense, right?
Common sense. So this is just a quick view of what the scenario portal looks like. One's a purchase, one's a refi. On our website, for those of you that have gotten an email from me, I always put these links on there. No login credentials needed, but a quick, this is your, this is our application. We don't call it that, but this is what we need. More often than not, I don't need any documents from you up front except for this information to get a term sheet. Sometimes on the scope of work, if there's a box that says, is there one available? I don't always ask for it, but sometimes I will come back to you and ask you for a copy of that scope of work. Thanks, Rose.
Today's opportunity to LendSure. So we do more than fix and flip loans. Fact is, we started this business about 2 years ago, but we've been in the non-QM space doing bank statement loans, alt doc loans for 9 years. I'll mention 3 things here, 3 products: non-wardable condo, 1031 exchange, forward or reverse, and the Boost bridge loan product. The bridge loan product is for move-up buyers that need to sell their existing house, get the cash out of it immediately before it's sold, so they can go find their dream, close escrow on their dream home. It eliminates that contingency. Here's the point that we need to make for loan officers. If I'm looking for a business, I am absolutely going to talk to realtors. When you call a realtor today and say, hey, I'm so-and-so with Capital Mortgage, and we have conventional bank programs that are really good, the realtor's going to hang up on you because he already has that person. He has 5 of those people that do those loans for them. What that realtor doesn't have is a non-wardable condo lender. They don't have a 1031 exchange lender. They don't have a Boost bridge loan lender. They don't have that person. You're that person. So the fix and flip word, the bridge loan for move-up buyers, will buy you a little more time on the phone or in a meeting with a realtor. I would use it to gain access to that audience. That's where you're going to get in the door. So just an idea to use. Remember, LendSure does all kinds of non-QM loans.
Now, this I'm going to include a link to this. Look for this in the thank you email that you're going to get in about an hour. This is our private label marketing kit. So I know a bunch of you have been asking me for this. And yes, you will also be getting a copy. Ryan, yes, you will be getting a copy of the slide deck along with the recording in that email in about an hour. So what you do is you click on this link, and it's going to be a giant PDF document. You download it. Then you open it with Adobe Acrobat. We've got not just fix and flip, we've got bank statement loans, we've got bridge financing loans, we've got a bunch of foreign national loans, all sorts of marketing resources. Then you're going to click on the individual items, and then you'll be able to add your logo, add your contact info, and add your disclaimers and stuff at the bottom. And you can start reaching out to realtors, to investment clubs right away. So if you have any trouble with these, let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Questions. We got a bunch of them, and I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your question. I'll try to get to as many as we can in the 12 minutes that we have left. I've got a couple of different questions, guys, on how that works with the LLC. Like if we got one person, if you've got a group and one person has a 660, is that acceptable, and the others do not? I'm assuming. How does that work with the LLC and the individuals?
So everyone must have the minimum 660 FICO. Where the mix and match comes in is that if one person has the cash and the other person has the experience, that's where you mix and match. But I can't take 800 FICO and combine it with a 550 FICO. That won't work. They probably are going to have to create a new LLC or drop the person with the low credit score.
Okay, so Melanie, I think that answers your question, which is a loan based on qualifications of the teams individually? So I think that just addressed that, if I'm not mistaken. Will you allow a customer to run a self-credit pull for the initial pre-qual review as long as they have the other required info? I'm finding hard pulls scare folks away.
My recommendation, because the scenario portal asks for a credit score. Oftentimes you have recently closed another loan for the borrower, so you know kind of what their credit score is. When I get the question that they have zero idea of, they have no idea what their credit score is, I recommend that you tell the borrower, go to annualcreditreport.com because it's free, and get their credit there. But we don't pull credit. After we have issued the term sheet and it comes back to us, that's when you will have pulled credit. Yes, that's a hard credit pull, but we're going to reissue that credit. But that's after we've already done the pre-qual. So we're not pulling credit up front. It's something that we have to have before we can order the appraisal. And I advise people to do a tri-merge with the scores, make sure the credit is not frozen. Then when you send that to us, as long as it's less than 30 days old, we will just reissue the credit that you already pulled. So the transaction will then involve one credit pull.
I'm getting some questions here, several of them, on property types. Can you address non-warrantable condos, 2 to 4 units, etc.?
Those are acceptable to us. In fact, we've even had some where it was a 4-unit and the rehab is to take it down to 2 units, or a 2-unit that they're going to turn into a 4-unit. As long as the plans and specs and the permits are in place, we absolutely can look at those. Just no commercial and no mixed use, anything residential.
Jim, you and I were just chatting about this the other day. Talk to us about Hawaii. Permitting times are horrendous.
We're okay to do loans there. The challenge in Hawaii is the time it takes to process a permit to get anything done. It's running anywhere today between 12 and 24 months just to gain access from the counties, the courts, the cities to do the work on the property. So we'll look at them, but you wouldn't want to take out a loan and then go work on your permit process. You're going to be paying us interest for no reason.
And we'll talk to you about that. Sometimes, like if there's a historical property, we'll ask, did you you know, did you already get city permission? Or if it's a major project, where are you in the permit process? Where's your borrower in the permit process? Because we don't want them, what Jim said, to take out a loan and it's due in 12 months and they get the permits in month 10. Like, we will chat with you about that, to chat with the borrower to make sure the timing makes sense.
I've got a couple of people asking about the minimum loan amount. What is the minimum?
Our minimum loan size, which is the combination of the percent of the purchase price we finance plus the percent of the rehab we finance, is $150,000. We make small exceptions there, but expect to have the borrower pay us 3 points on that loan. I describe it as, we want the investor to make the most money when they buy it, rehab it, and sell it, or buy it, rehab it, and keep it as a rental and have a stream of income. And you need to be paid also, whatever your broker comp is. Let's say it's 2 or 2.25. We charge what you charge to match that, plus a $15.95 underwriting fee. And on some of the smaller loans, we will ask for 3 points. Otherwise, the loan does not make financial sense.
You lose money.
Yeah, we like the loan exceptions over $1 million way more than we like the exceptions under 150. And believe me, so do you guys.
Okay. Booker wants to know, if it's a major renovation, how detailed does the investor game plan need to be for approval of the loan?
The larger the project, the more the detail we need, meaning a very accurate scope of work. And then if it's a large project, we're going to require permits. We mentioned permits several times. If you're doing small cosmetic makeovers, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, those don't require permits. But when you get into any situation where we're moving walls, we're dealing with moving electric panels, we're tearing off roofs and putting new roofs, we're going to ask for a detailed scope of work. We're going to ask for permits. And in some cases, if it's large enough, we're going to ask for the architect plans, which, as you know, can be $5,000 to $15,000. So on those big deals, we don't wing those. That's a lot of detail. Like the one I showed you, the $1.5 million, that took 1.5 months, but we got it done.
Okay, and then assets okay in personal account of a person on an LLC?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Rose,
Sorry about, what about, yes, sir.
I got to make one comment. I'm gonna level with the audience. I'm gonna level with you guys for a second. I'm gonna level. We look at something that's not really on paper. And that's called the investor's profitability, or flip economics. So if we think we got a first timer, a rookie, maybe they done one, they got lucky, whatever. If we're looking at a situation where we know in our hearts that there's no profit in this for the investor, we can make a loan at some percentage of it, and we're only going to be 70% involved. The investor's 100% involved. We kind of take a deep look at profits for the investor. We want them to make money. So you'll hear a comment from time to time, flip economics. It has to make sense that once all the bills are paid, we're paid, the interest is paid, the origination fee that you guys charge is paid, the selling cost of their property is paid, what's left over. We look at that number. We want them to make money. So I want to be honest with you up front about that. It's not in writing, it's not on a piece of paper, but we measure profits.
Okay, and I'm getting a few questions about whether we can do empty lots or manufactured homes.
Manufactured homes is a no. We just introduced, we have not funded a brand new ground up. We will look at improved building lots, already set, approved by the county or the city, to build a single family residence of 2,500 or less square feet with a value of $750,000. A builder building a home on spec to be sold will look at ground up vertical. We don't get involved in working the earth and doing, putting in roads and streets and running electric lines. That's not what we do.
Okay.
No horizontal. We do vertical work.
I think this is, I'm not sure if this is related, but what about 2 to 4 units, ground up construction?
That at this time is a no. Single family residence only.
And sorry. Jerry, I don't have another fix and flip webinar on the books, but if you want me to do one for your team at your office, reach out to me directly and I'll be happy to schedule something. Right. Or what about extension options for a fee if there's some unforeseen circumstances?
We had that example on the New Orleans loan where I showed you the serial flipper. It took him an extra 2 or 3 months because of the historical district issues. So all we did at the end of that term was saw the work was done. It was 85% complete. We could tell the quality of the work. So we approved him for a 3-month extension, charged 1 point, kept the rate the same. We didn't increase his interest rate, charged a point for the extension, and about 20 or 35 days later, he completed it, got on the market and sold it.
We stay in contact with the borrowers. So in month 8 or 9, we're going to call them. I think our average payoff, Jim, is 7 or 8 months.
Correct.
So on any loan that's still on the books in month 8 with a 12-month balloon, Jim or I are going to call the borrower directly. We can tell what their draw schedule is. Have they taken money? How much is left? And what's their plan for the exit strategy? So there's no surprises in month 12. You know, for example, if somebody's is done and it's month 11 and they have it listed and it's under contract and the closing is 3 weeks into the 12-month, we're just going to say, fine, pay us off when you get it. We're not going to charge them for that. But again, we're in contact with these borrowers starting at about month 8 or 9 to ensure that they're on track to finish and either come back to you to refinance it or list it and get it sold.
I talked to a borrower yesterday that's due April the 1st. The property is in Estero, Florida, which is near South Florida. It's near Naples. He's due, decides to take his home off the market. He wants to hold it because the property is appreciated. He wants to hold it to see what it does the next 2 or 3 years. What do we call that when we roll a loan from fix and flip to a 30-year rental situation? That's called a DSCR loan. So they don't have to pay us off. They can decide to hold a property and not sell it. We qualify them with a DSCR ratio. What's the rents on the house versus our PITI? If the house can afford our payment, I mean the rents equals our payment, we'll write them a 30-year loan, standard LendSure DSCR program. A very good niche for you guys as well, because now you're getting paid on your second loan, which means 2 commissions, which means more money for you.
And I've been asked this question. If they want the refi, you don't have to do the DSCR loan, right? If they qualify for another non-owner product that has lower rate and they have all this income, you don't have to put it into a DSCR. These loans naturally transition into DSCRs because we didn't have any income on this loan. It makes sense that they're not going to want to provide income on the DSCR loan, but obviously if there's a different non-owner product and they can go full doc and it's a lower rate than DSCR, yes, you know, we're not going to check what product you put them into, you know, when you qualify them for the new loan.
Right, great. Monique, thank you so much for the compliments. I'm going to share that with our speakers. And Katie wants to know, can you run through how the calculation works? That trips me up sometimes. So how the LTC, LTV, 85 to 70 works on figuring out the down payment.
Okay, so let's assume you have a first-time investor, and I know we're running up against the time, so probably the last question. If you have a first-time investor, this is the calculation. You take the purchase price times 75%. That equals loan amount A. Take the rehab cost times 75%, and that equals loan amount B. A plus B equals C, which is my loan amount, and take that and divide it into the ARV And as long as you're at 70% or under, the flip economics should work on that one. If you have other questions, just email me directly or call me directly after this and we can go over it in more detail. Do not take the ARV times 70% and say, bam, that's my loan number, because based on experience, the borrower may not qualify for that loan amount.
Okay, and then a couple of people are asking me for your contact information. On the slide deck in slide 2 are their email addresses for Lori and Jim, and you're going to see that in about an hour. So please feel free to reach out to them directly. If you have a question or anything, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I am at your service. So with that, Jim, any parting words?
Nope, I thank you guys for your time and attention. This is a great product to help you make more money. Think of it that way first. What's in it for me? And go have fun with it, sell it, and call Lori. We'll level with you on every deal.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Have a great
Lori-
day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.